so much of what you're talking about when it comes to creating this culture of trust, developing this sort of level of freedom and that allows you to be creative, to innovate, to see things in new ways, it's about sort of humanizing work, humanizing the organization, and as you keep saying, tapping into human nature and understanding your peers and the people you work with at that level, that very human level, as opposed to job titles and levels and all the other kind of artificial structures we have at work. Let's talk about that a little bit, because you are not fearful of bringing in so many sources of wisdom that some people might say are a little bit woo-woo, but they actually you bring them to bear on real work, on real brands for real results.
It's funny, when I started doing adding this type of work to my repertoire of actually, design development and manifesting and creating products, it did feel a little woo-woo, but now science is proving out a lot of the things that I knew intuitively. For example, science is saying that if you have 6 deep connections that you can really tell anything to, you're likely to live 10 years longer than if you gave up smoking or drinking. So the nice thing is that, and this idea of social contagion that's very popular now really speaks to this idea that if someone is happy at work and they're smiling, they'll affect, 12 other people who will also smile. And so a lot of this I feel now, and whenever I bring it into the workplace, it's always grounded in science. I work with a woman named Makara Meredith who teaches living systems theory, and it's all from a scientific base that shows how relationship is what we're wired to do. And that in fact, when you look in ancient times, the amazing wonders that got made in the world and the things that got achieved were because of people working together that were in relationship. And so I almost think it's very unnatural the way we've set up our companies opposite that. So one of the other things I've done, I've studied sound and vibration and science and chaos theory for years, and I would start to witness over my years in the corporate world that sometimes you'd get 5 people in a room and the result would be great. Other times there'd be, 4 different people and the results were fantastic. And I think there's no accident that we use language like we're on the same wavelength or he has good vibes. I mean, I think there's a reason that we've adopted some of that language, because what I would witness is when people were connected and quote unquote starting on the same frequency or on the same vibe, we could create and spiral to kind of a higher place together in terms of ideas. Because I think in order to really be creative, you have to almost zoom out to 1,000 miles high to beyond what you think the problem is and start very far out in your thinking and then hone it in to something that is very actionable. But I think oftentimes in companies we're afraid to zoom out as a beginning, and I don't think you ever get to the best, actionable idea. Anyway, so with that observation, I started wondering, well, how do I get people to be on the same vibe, no pun intended, at the onset? Because if you could do that, I think you'd be more productive. Because sometimes I'd watch people brainstorm for 3 hours and nothing would come out of it, and sometimes in 15 minutes you'd get great results. So I brought in a man that I was studying sound with, and he brought in some of his equipment, and we took the 12 people that were going to create a new idea together. He used a piece of equipment that records the range. Everyone has a range of vibration. If you go, you could record the different frequencies. So I may be a range of F sharp 32.5 to 69.2. I'm making that up. But, and there's a place at which we all resonate. So we each have a range. And what he was able to do is find the place where everyone could go to. And he would take that tone and embed it in music. And so you didn't hear the tone, but it was embedded in the music. And in the morning when we would get together in one of these sessions to brainstorm, to solve a problem, we would actually put that CD on. And if you know the concept of entrainment, which is when cuckoo clocks are on the wall and they say after a while the pendulums all start swinging the same way, that's entrainment. So the idea is after a few minutes of this frequency being encoded in the music, which is a frequency that we were all clearly capable of getting to, we would be on the same wavelength. And so again, it wasn't you didn't feel any change, but the results in terms of we got to better results quicker. So I would say that is management efficiency in a new kind of way. So I had bought with my own money sound chairs, because the other thing I had learned is that those times when you get those aha moments, it is both halves of your brain coming together, your right and left half of your brain. And so I said to my teacher at the time, there must be a way to exercise those muscles, just like we exercise the muscles in our arm. Can we exercise the muscle of the right and left half of the brain coming together? Because I believe we don't do that enough. And like I said, in free play, you tend to do that more, but in corporations, we don't. So what he did was he made a CD which embedded binaural beats, so that when you listen to the CD, in order to hear the music, both halves of your brain had to come together, again, unknowingly to you, it's unconscious, in order to hear the beat. And so I did this experiment where I found that there was a company that could come in and give a 20-minute test on creativity. And creativity is made up of like 5 attributes, the ability to take shapes and do many different things with them. And it was a 20-minute test. I put the sound chair in a closet, hid it, and I asked for volunteers who would be willing to, every day during lunch hour for 6 weeks, listen to this CD, take the test beforehand, listen to the CD 6 weeks during lunch hour, then emerge and come out of the closet and take the test again and see the results. So I'll never forget, it was a highlight of my career when after the 6 weeks, sure enough, the same independent accounting firm came in and gave the test, and it showed that I had increased creativity 18% by all these various metrics within the people who had been listening to the CDs. And so I went to one of the staff meetings. I reported to the president of Mattel at the time, and she kind of went around the room and asked each of the division heads, tell me what's going on in your area. I unrolled a chart with a pointer, very corporate of me, and said, I've increased, creativity by 18%. And she said, did you fire people? Did you hire new people? And I said, no, I bought them sound chairs. And by the way, here's the receipt.